Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are viewing from. My name is Kieran Bruder. I'm the Marketing Communications Specialist for Follow the Camino. And I have with me today Shirley Ann Poulton. She is a regular multi-time pilgrim to the Camino de Santiago. And we're going to have a chat with her today about her experiences along the Camino. Shirley Ann, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hello, thank you. I'm well, thank you. I'm fine. It's freezing out here in Australia. We've had rain and winds, and I live right on the ocean, so it's extra cold. But I'm
Oh,
fine, thank
well,
you.
hopefully it's snug inside, away from those chilly breezes. And I
Yes,
think you may be our first guest from Australia joining us. You're certainly going to be our most far-flung guest. So delighted to have you here, Shirley Ann.
thank you.
So I just wanted to get kick-started with a pretty simple question. You've been on the Camino de Santiago a number of times. What kind of role has walking and staying active played in your life?
Well, I do enjoy walking. I'm quite a fit person. I'm in the gym almost every day, and I try to walk at least 6 kilometers each day. And that's quite easy because like I said, I've got the ocean on three sides of my apartment. And so I can do walks along the ocean, or if I want a quiet walk, I can go in a different direction. I just love walking. And so when I heard about the Camino, I thought, what a wonderful idea to get out there and walk and walk and walk.
And it
Mhm.
is certainly it's walking and walking and walking and walking with a bit of a difference though. You could surely go along any number of beautiful lengthy walking trails in Western Australia. If you wanted to go a little bit further afield, there's the east coast of New Zealand right there. Why come all the way to Europe to walk the Camino in particular?
Um, I have walked in New Zealand, but not seriously. When I
Mhm.
say serious, I mean taking a backpack, etc., etc. Uh, and that was okay. I I'm into my religion, and so the fact that there were so many churches, and most of the people I walk with on Camino um, are the same religion, and so we can talk freely about Christianity, Catholicism, etc., etc. And I get more pleasure out of walking with those types of people than just walking and not, just, New Zealand is pretty, you're right. However, you can just keep walking and walking. The good thing about Europe, and I came back a couple of days ago from there, um, you've got little villages, and there's so much history. And so not only am I walking for pleasure, but I'm also learning, and the sights are just, it's wonderful. The little villages are so cute, and people are so welcoming. They just love to see the pilgrims walking through their villages. So that's why I prefer Camino as opposed to New Zealand. But they are also trying to promote Caminos here in Western Australia. However, it's not the same. It's
Mhm.
really not the same. So Camino is for me the place to walk.
It's a quintessentially European experience, walking
Mm.
through a living history. Would that
Yes,
be kind of a fair way of
absolutely.
describing it?
Mm.
Okay,
Yes,
fantastic.
there's not much history out in Australia. I mean, if ever you've been here, you might know what I'm talking about.
I did used to live in Australia, so I'm kind of aware of the more recent history of it. It seems to me a bit of a stretch to maybe develop a Camino route in Western Australia, but if that gets people having a Camino experience, then all the more power to them. Um,
Yes.
so what was your inspiration for coming then primarily motivated by your faith?
Um, you mean what inspired me to come and attempt the Camino?
Hmm.
Um, well, the truth is, I'd never heard of the Camino. In 2012, there was a film, the way. I suppose everyone has seen the way. And one of the parishioners asked if I'd like to go and see it with her and her husband. So I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of the Camino. So I went. And when I came out of the theatre, I decided I'm going to attempt that walk. It was probably the scenery, and it seemed something that was challenging. And I like challenge. I like a good challenge. So I said to my friends that I went with, I'm going to do that Camino. They didn't think I could do it, but I did. That was in 2012. And 3 years later, I did my first Camino. I was so excited.
There's nothing like showing up your friends when they said you can't do it.
Yeah, I know. And then I thought, my goodness, I'd better do this. Otherwise, they think Shirley Ann's chicken. But
she's all talk. But
yeah.
then you weren't. You went and you did it.
No.
And what was your first Camino route that you walked?
What was my first? Sorry.
What was the first Camino route that you walked?
That I walked. Okay. So the first Camino, I've done 4. 3 were from Saint John.
Okay.
So we started off right in Saint John, Pierre de Port, etc., etc., and that was the first one. So I did that in 2015. I did that. Now that was interesting because I was determined to do it. So I contacted the newspaper and I said, I'm going to do the Camino. And I wrote, and then the editor, who I've since got to know, wrote and said, well, Shirley Ann, write an article and we'll publish it. So I did. And then I had people from all over the place contacting me in other parts of Western Australia as well, contacting me. And in the end, 3 of us did it. People are always very enthusiastic when they see it, but then their enthusiasm wanes as we get closer to either it's too daunting learning the language, though I did bring in Spanish teachers to teach us the basics, like hola and wine or whatever, to drink. We had to.
Muy bien. That's probably all you really need, those 2 words.
Yeah, I know, hola and wine. And then a few people were put off because they said it was too expensive. But after my first experience, it wasn't too expensive. It was worth every penny. The money was well spent. So in answer to your question, we started off in Saint Jean, Pierre de Port. And that was in 2015.
And you walked the full route to Santiago?
Yes, we did. The 3 of us. Yes, we did the full. Sorry, I'm just trying to think back. So yes, absolutely. We went all the way to Santiago. It was a new experience. We were sort of in shock, thinking, yikes, do we have to walk up that mountain? And as there were no taxis around, so we had to walk up that mountain. It was wonderful.
And you did it.
Yeah, we did it.
That's the thing about walking up a mountain. It always seems daunting at the bottom, but once you're at the top,
absolutely,
the effort is well worth it. And you wonder, what was I worried about to begin with? Here I am, I've done it.
Yeah, I know. I think I read somewhere, I think it was written in the Bible, or someone had written, don't look up the top, just take one step at a time. And before you know it, you're up there. If you're looking up the top, you think, oh, I'm never going to do it. But just don't. Just do one step at a time and you get there.
Yep. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with one and all of that.
Yes.
So what were your expectations going into that first Camino in particular? And were they challenged in any way by the experience that you had ultimately?
I don't know what I expected. And I'm always up for surprises. I don't know what I expected it to be hard because I saw the film. And it was challenging. The walks there were times when we were exhausted. I was I wasn't, I don't know what I was expecting. I knew it was going to be hard, but it was going to be an adventure. So when you go on an adventure, you take everything that comes
Mhm.
your way, and it's all a challenge. So if there's a big mountain, blow it. You have to walk up that mountain. If it's raining and you have to get to the next village, then you just keep walking. It it was a challenge. It was an experience, and it's something I went back and did time and time again. The first time we went, I had no idea what it was going to be like. We saw the film, but and interestingly, I think in the film they stayed in a lot of albergues. The
Yes, I
albergue
remember that.
referred to.
Mhm.
Um, but I asked Sylvia at One Foot Abroad or Camino that I wanted to stay in hotels. So I was expecting good hotels, and she did that. So it
Mhm.
was fine. It was an adventure. I didn't go with great expectations. I knew it was going to be challenging, and you just make the most of it. I loved it.
And that's exactly what we hope to provide at Follow the Camino, is that opportunity for people to embrace the challenge and the spirit of the
Mhm.
Camino in everything that comes with, while
Yes.
also giving people the ability to have a bit more comfort when they sleep at night, or to um, stop for a rest day if they need to, or to arrange evening meals so that mental load is
Mhm.
taken off people at the end of the day. We want to try to bring that Camino experience to everybody in a way that suits them. So I'm glad to hear that Sylvia, our sales director, managed to sort you out with some comfortable hotels. You must have slept like a log every night.
Yes, I think I did. The trouble is, you go out to dinner, and with every meal you get a bottle of wine, each person. And of course you can't waste food, it's a sin. You can't
No,
waste wine.
absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to drink that wine, and then we'd stumble up. And you sort of stumble into your bed at about 10 o'clock, and you have to be up at 5 a.m. So it was wonderful. It doesn't matter if you can't remember how the night went. You enjoyed the wine and you had a good sleep. That
And
and
you've got another night to enjoy that evening anyway. So the 5 a.m.
that's it.
start, tricky but not insurmountable either.
No, I think what I did ask Sylvia to do, and she does it very well. She gives us a day off, so you've got a day when you can sleep in, and then and that happens about once every 5 or 6 days. You can have a rest, and so it doesn't matter. You catch up with your sleep.
Yeah, that's what a lot of clients that certainly we are seeing, they're choosing to do that now, where they'll have 5 days of walking every
Yeah.
day, and then take a half or a full day to rest and to recover,
Yes.
let the blisters die down, and then go again. So it only
Yes.
adds ultimately maybe a handful of days to your trip, but it really helps to rest your body and
Mm,
to feel fresher and enjoy the experience more when you start walking
absolutely.
again.
Hmm.
Um, and then for some of your subsequent Caminos, you mentioned you've done four in total. You had your first experience going in with no expectations. You must have had
Hmm.
expectations then going in your second, third, and fourth times. Did you find that they changed, or that you changed with the Camino experience each time you went again?
No, each time, and the second time, hang on. The second time, my second Camino was from Portugal. I'd heard
Hmm.
about the Portuguese way, so I thought, well, let's try it. The Portuguese way was okay. Um, it was very short, 3 weeks, I think, in total. We started off in Porto. It wasn't as pretty as the real Camino. I'd
Hmm.
keep, the one from St. John. It was really nice. As well, I didn't feel 100% safe on the walking on the Portuguese route. On one occasion, Oh, I have to say at this point, only two of us did the Portuguese way. I
Okay.
did advertise, but not many were interested. And so on one occasion, we were walking. It was a Sunday morning. I've never forgotten. And we were walking it was like a forest. And we could hear gunshots. And it was frightening because you don't know if you're walking towards where they're shooting, or a bullet can come out. Anyway, so when there was a clearing, we managed to see there was a group of people shooting birds in a different direction, but we didn't know that. When you're walking and you hear these gunshots, you think, yikes, am I going to make it wherever? So we got over that. The Portuguese way wasn't as enjoyable. It was still pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It was still good hotels. Finished it in 3 weeks, and I kept thinking there's got to be more, because after the first Camino took about 7 or 8 weeks, and that was how I like to walk. Keep walking. Portuguese way finished very quickly. When I got to Santiago, I kept thinking there's got to be more to this. So I started thinking about my third Camino.
Okay, straight into it.
Yeah, and that was about 2 years later, because when one is in the workforce, you can't take big chunks, that long off at one time.
Yeah,
so
it is tricky.
Yeah, it is. So only two of us did the second Camino. I'm just reading. The whole Camino lasted about 3 weeks. The scenery and surrounds were not as good as the first. And when we finished 3 weeks later, I needed more walking and adventure. So, of course, I booked the third Camino.
And for the third one, did you return to the Camino Frances route, or did you embark on a new journey entirely?
No, on the third, there were 4 of us. Once again, I wrote for the newspaper and people contacted me. In the end, a total of 4 of us walked. We started from Saint Jean. Now this time, I don't. The first time when we did the Camino, there were 3 of us, and the mountain, the Pyrenees. You'd know what I mean. St. John, you had to walk up and then walk down. After about 3 hours of walking up, we were exhausted. We didn't, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know the Pyrenees was going to be that bad. So we walked for about 3 or 4 hours, and then we managed to get transport around the. Now let me see. The first time then decided to take transport to Roncesvalles.
Okay.
We got as far as we could, and then we found apparently there is a road that goes around. So we got a bus, or someone gave us a lift. They must have felt sorry for 3 old ladies trying to do the Camino with backpacks, and we must have looked like I don't know what. And they let us in their car, and they drove us to Roncesvalles. So that was the first time. Second time, I went via Portugal, so the Pyrenees didn't come into it. Third time, I tried to be a bit more determined. Yes, we started off at St. John. The other 3 ladies I was with were much more fitter, if there's such a word as fitter. They walked the whole way, up and over. I took a bus to nearly the top. There's a cross, you'd know where I mean. Got off the bus and walked the rest of the Pyrenees and down the other side.
Okay.
That was my second time. That was on the third occasion. So that was hard, but I did that. However, after that, I was determined on my next Camino, I was going to do the whole mountain.
Okay. So you were gearing yourself up stage by stage to tackle that first pass over the Pyrenees.
Yes. Yeah. The first time we went, I didn't realize it was going to be so hard. the second time we walked up that mountain, I was sort of prepared for it. So we went, and then we took the bus round to the other side. No. The second time I took the bus to the top, nearly the top, and walked.
And
So
in between your different Caminos, were you in was sort of a fitness plan? Were you getting your body and your mind ready for each Camino, learning what you had learned from the previous one?
Sorry, say that again.
Between each of your Caminos, were you kind of building up your fitness? Were you ramping up the amount that you walked each day? Did you have your own kind of fitness plan for how to embark on that next Camino adventure?
Oh, okay. No, I do Caminos every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the first year after I come back, when I return to Australia, I just carry on with my lifestyle, gym every day, working. But then about 6 months before, when I know who will be coming with me, I always arrange that we meet up like on a Sunday, usually after Mass, we meet up somewhere and walk together. I don't know if were you in Western Australia or another part of...
I never made it to Western Australia. I lived in Queensland and I visited Sydney and Melbourne.
Oh, okay. So in Perth, there's a park. It's called Bold Park. And it's just like a mini Camino. It's a park, but and it has walks. In fact, I was telling one of the parishioners today, they're starting Camino in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. And that was after me promoting it to them. And they go to the same park to practice. So what we do is we meet at this park once a week and we walk. And it's hilly. It's just like a miniature Camino. It's only about 8 kilometers. However, it's hilly in some places. It's smooth in some places. There are rocks in other places. So that's good practice for Camino. So I insisted when I was doing it with there were 4 of us on that occasion, that we met there, because then you get to know people, because when you advertise in the news, you get strangers from everywhere. And so you've got to see, is there going to be a good rapport? Are we going to fight or whatever? So you get to know people. So 6 months before, I get serious about walking, but I walk anyway. So it's just a matter of walking up and down hills.
And that sounds like the perfect training plan to go somewhere that replicates the terrain of the Camino.
Yes,
and it's sensible to get to know the people that you plan on walking with as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's so important.
Ultimately, did you find that the connections that you built with people when you were training, though, if there were differences in your character, or you thought that there might be issues along the Camino, did you find that once you were there, it was all fine anyway?
Oh, no. And I wasn't going to bring that up, but it's so strange. I can't understand why this happens on Camino. When we're walking, everyone is fine. But when we get to Camino, people seem to want to go off in their own, in their own direction. I've said to the girls, if there are any problems, just let me know, because then I can contact Sylvia or someone at your place and they would help. But people seem to just want to go off and do their own thing. And then you hear through the grapevine that, someone you were walking with, who came with you from Australia, has had a problem and they're stuck somewhere. But the communication seems to get lost somewhere along. Perhaps I'm not a good leader. I don't know. It could be me. But yes, it's interesting. When we're walking and, the practice walks, as I call it, we're all okay. When we get to Camino, people seem to go off in their own direction, which is sad. I could write a book on the experiences I've had with people I've taken. But that's okay. I mean, that never ruined my Camino. It didn't stop. And they all enjoyed it. You know, people enjoy it in their own way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that is the tricky part. You leading a party, everybody has their own motivation for
Yes.
going, and different characters. Some people might be more insular than others. Some people might be going on the Camino actively to
Mm.
be self-reflective and to take that time to themselves and to be be independent and self-driven. So I don't think it's any reflection on you that would happen. I think that is just the nature. Some people want
Yes.
that.
Yeah. That, as long as they enjoy it and what they know. I mean, we're all in the same hotel. We're all either in rooms next door to each other, so we can contact each other. But anyway, that's trivial. You know, the Camino itself is what's important, and we all get what we want out of it. It's just
Absolutely.
wonderful. Mm-hmm.
It's got something for everybody. I think that's what makes it such a special walk.
Yes.
I want to quickly touch on your faith. You've mentioned that you have you're a real advocate for the Camino in your parish, and that you've organised these walks for people before. How long have you been active in your church for?
For about the last 100 years, or so it seems. In fact, we've got the 50th anniversary coming up in a few weeks. You know, the church had been built for 50 years. So I've been in that parish for about 45 years. So, I do all sorts of things. I'm leader of a few groups, and I work in, you know, they must be really desperate because they asked me to work in the office, and they asked me to be a catechist, and I'm an Eucharistic minister. So I think they're just desperate. They're looking for people, and all they could find was me. So my faith is strong. If was that your question, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. That answers the question, and it shows that you are willing to put in your time and to try to help people through your church.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
says as much and more about your faith than saying it's strong on this chat. Had you ever been on a pilgrimage before? Well, the
Yes.
Camino de Santiago is not, it's not quite recognized as a pilgrimage in the same way as they are in other faiths. It has that root, and it is very much an important experience for people in the Catholic faith and the Christian faith more broadly. So, was the Camino was your first pilgrimage?
I have been on a few. I've
Mhm.
done the Holy Land, Fatima, Lourdes, and Medjugorje.
Mhm.
And that was with groups from the church. You know how parishes take groups of people. And they
Mhm.
were good. I love Medjugorje. I just love that place. It has a really nice feel to it. So yes, spiritually, I get a lot out of pilgrimages, and they give me opportunities to meditate and get my thoughts in order. And I try to solve family problems. You know, you have these kids and they drive you around the bend till they want something, and then, you know, you think, oh my goodness, how did God give me kids like this? So then, you know, when you go on pilgrimages, even Camino, I love Camino because it gives me time. You know, at the end of the day, I think I was going to say to you, I thought you were going to ask what was a typical day on Camino, and the day, a typical day is something like, this is going away from what you've asked me, you know, what you wanted to talk about. But
Please, by all means.
I mean, for anyone who's never done Camino, so you start walking at about 7 a.m. and then, now let me just see. Okay, so most mornings I'd start walking on my own, and within about 10 minutes I'd be part of a group of strangers. By lunchtime we would all know each other, and at dinner in the evening there would easily be about 20 people around the table. I love the fact that it's so easy to meet people and chat freely during a Camino. And you find if you're walking with strangers, you can talk because they're not going to come back and say, oh, Shirley Ann said this and this and this, you know? And to top it all, top it all, in every village en route to Santiago, there is always a church. And that's what I love about Europe. Certainly, I was just spent about 3 months in France, and we went to a few other countries. But Spain especially, every village had a church, and each church is about 300 or 400 years old. There's that history, and it's wonderful. So we'd have a pilgrim's mass every night, and I look forward to those masses. And it just gives you a chance to sit and meditate on what's happened during the day. And even if you don't pray today, you can pray tomorrow, but then you can sort out all your problems. So spiritually, Camino can help if that's what you want out of it.
That's fantastic. I've heard a lot of descriptions for the Camino. I've heard people talk about the ability to pray and to self-reflect and to meditate, but I've never heard of the Camino as a parenting tool to help you sort out problems with your kids. So that's great to hear. For all the parents out there, if you need a hand, the Camino de Santiago is something you need to try.
Yeah.
And so, can you talk to me a little bit about the difference with the Camino to, say, the pilgrimage to Medjugorje or to Lourdes? There'll be a lot more people on the Camino, I assume, that are there for reasons other than the Christian faith. And how do you find bonding with those people? You mentioned you'd kind of be integrated into a group within the first 10 minutes of your day. How do you find bonding with those people if they've got a kind of a very different motivation to you for walking the Camino?
Well, it doesn't matter. We all think differently. Let me tell you, on my second Camino, I was walking, and there was this lovely young fellow in front of me. I was on my own. I think the people I was walking with were either far ahead in front because I probably walked too slowly for them, or they were right at the back. Anyway, I was on my own, and there was this lovely young chap, probably mid-20s, and for some reason I knew he wasn't Catholic, and I started chatting with him. Turned out he was at a university in Israel. He was of the Jewish faith. And I said to him, well, why are you walking? It was you lot who killed Jesus. And he said, oh, no, but it's okay. He didn't think like that. He was doing the Camino to prove to his friends he could do the Camino. So you don't have to go on Camino just because you're Catholic or because you adore St. James or, you're doing this for Jesus. Just do it, and it can resolve quite a few problems. So I can mix with lots of people. In fact, in Australia, this is coming away from Camino, I do some teaching. I teach the English language, and I chose specifically Muslim women. And but I won't go into that too much. I feel I'm not bragging, but I can talk with most people from countries. So it doesn't matter. If you're not Catholic, you can still talk. You don't have to talk about the faith. When we're walking, we can talk about football, or we can. I've met Americans, and when I was doing a Camino a few years ago, they were about to vote for a president. And of course, Trump came in. He became the president that year. And I was walking with some Americans from Florida. And one woman, I hope she's not listening tonight, said to me, do you know, she said, if anyone comes into me and they want to vote for Trump, I'm going to put them off. So you don't have to talk about religion. It doesn't matter. If you have got Christ in your heart, you get on with everyone. It doesn't matter who you're walking with, who you're talking with. Just go on and socialize with them. And I loved it. So they're not all Catholic. And interestingly, you go to in the church in the evenings, it wasn't just us Catholics. There were other faiths there because the priest was giving a blessing to all pilgrims. So it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone gets a blessing, whether you're Hindu or of the Islamic faith or the Jewish faith. I don't know. So I have no problems talking with people, and you don't ask people what their faith is when you start walking with them. You just walk and talk.
It's a common human experience. It breaks down all kinds of borders. That's
Yes.
what I always hear about the Camino.
Yes, it does. It's great. Yeah.
I just wanted to show a comment. Sorry, I just wanted to show a comment here that one of our viewers commented. Walk it off, talking about your experiences leading a group. They say, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way that you were leading your group. You encourage people to do their own thing, and they're out to have their own experience anyway. So a little show of confidence there that leading a group, people are out there looking for different experiences, yes. And that's absolutely fine.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Just because I was going to do another Camino in 2 years' time, and I was thinking, shall I take a group with me or shall I just do it myself? But I know what will happen. I will write another article for the newspaper, and there will be people interested. I'll take them. It's Camino. It's what you get out of it, isn't it? And it's what you want. Yeah. So that was nice. Thanks that viewer for her comments, his or her comments. That's wonderful.
Well, I think we're just so happy to have you on to talk to you, Shirley Ann. We wouldn't. I don't think anybody would want you to think that you were not doing a good job. You are doing a fantastic thing. In fact, trying to organize these groups and to get more people to come along on the Camino. It's an experience that everyone should have, and anybody who is willing to put in the effort of organizing that and making it happen, especially traveling from so far away. You can't be doing this wrong.
Thank you.
So, just a couple more questions before we wrap up for today. In general, how has going on the Camino developed your faith over time?
Well, I can't. It hasn't. I still believe my faith has always been strong, and it has always been strong because I've faced a lot of opposition. You bring up your children as Catholics, and then now they're turning around saying, "Mum, there is no God." So my faith has always been. Not only are you battling with people outside who don't believe in God, but you're battling in the family. So my faith has always been strong. Camino strengthens my faith. But it's not really necessary. My faith is strong. I love Camino because it just gives me 7 weeks to get my life back on track, to try to resolve what's going on around me. It gives me a holiday. It gets me away from working. I've got written down invigorated and then start planning my next Camino. So my faith is strong. I didn't need Camino to strengthen it. I do like St. James, and I've just spent time in Spain, and I've done some research on St. James. And did you know it was a toss-up between St. James and St. Therese? I'm pretty sure it was St. Therese, who should become the saint of Spain.
Okay.
And it was St. James who won out, man, as usual, winning out over the women. You know how you fellows are.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
So my faith has always been strong, but I love Camino, and it does strengthen it, but it gives me time to just come back down to earth and just sort things out, So I come back renewed, invigorated, ready to take on the world, so to speak, and then start another Camino.
That's fantastic. And do you have a favorite town or village that you can remember from your various Caminos? Kind of one single destination where you'd say, if you're walking a Camino, stay a second night here and see it.
Yeah, well, Sylvia's very good. She always gives us 2 nights in Sarria. I do love Sarria. And then there are some really nice, there are better, I think there's Leon, which is also quite a nice place, but it's quite a big city.
Hmm.
But if anyone's going, and many people start off from Saria. In fact, a couple I spoke to in my parish today, they're starting in Saria. That's a really nice place. It has a good feel to it.
Hmm.
I do, but I wouldn't start from Saria myself because it's only 2 weeks from there, back into Santiago. Um,
You
there
want that
are,
longer, more immersive Camino experience.
I prefer, I like Saint John, but that blooming mountain, if they can remove that mountain and make it all flat, I'd be there.
Right,
Yeah.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the kind of the French and Spanish authorities can do about that.
Yes.
Maybe in the
Okay. Thank
future.
you.
Maybe in the future.
Okay.
And then my last question for you, Shirley Ann, is if you do you have any advice for people who are considering walking the Camino themselves? It might be about what to pack. It might be about what to experience while you're there. It could be to do with a fitness plan. Kind of any general tips you have for people who are looking at doing the Camino soon.
Okay. What I would say, definitely have a go. Okay. It's if it's too daunting starting at the Pyrenees, then sort of start further down the track, like Leon or Burgess or something. Saria is not going to. Saria gives you a small sample of how Camino is. It's only 2 weeks, but Camino, you have to start. They can give themselves 4 weeks. Um, it's. I hope I haven't put people off. I've been complaining about the mountains, but it's truly wonderful, and you can overcome those mountains because when I walked last year, there were times when I wasn't feeling too well, and I met up with some other people, and so we shared a taxi. It was only for
Mhm.
about we were only in the taxi for about 10 minutes, but we just had to get over that mountain. So people, I don't want to put people off by saying, oh, it's really hard. Don't worry. If they find there's something they can't do, if there's a little stretch they can't do, use transport. They don't have to prove anything to anyone except themselves. So they don't have to um, kill themselves just to go back home and say, "Oh, I've done Camino." It's not. If there is a God, He's just glad you are there. Does that make sense? You know, have a go at the Camino, and if they find anything is too hard, they can take public transport, and that's a wonderful experience as well. Getting on the bus with the locals, and they
It's
love
a more authentic
talking.
experience.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, and they like meeting people. They like seeing tourists or pilgrims, as we call them. Yeah, I'd say have a go and give them my email address, and I'll write and I'll convince them.
Well, Shirley Ann, you've done a fantastic job already at convincing people to go on the Camino. You've been doing it for more than 10 years now, and hopefully you'll continue to do it for tens of years to come. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on with us today. It has been truly a pleasure to chat to you about your Camino experiences, your faith, what the Camino has meant to you. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
No worries at all. To all of the viewers, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you again for another chat soon. All right. Thank you, Shirley Ann. Goodbye now.
Bye. Good night.